Abigail is with us in Austin, Texas. Hey, Abigail, how are you?
Hi, Dave. I'm great. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure. What's up?
So I own 3 rental properties, and one of them I own with my ex-husband. I own 75%. He owns 25%.
Joyful.
And, well, he and I, we get along very well. He's a realtor. I'm a realtor. We see eye to eye. So there's no disharmony around the management of the property. But so the deal is this, because I'm interested to know what you would do in this situation. Given that interest rates are so low, I inquired with my mortgage banker about refinancing. So right now it's at 4.5%, and she told me we could get down to 2.625%. But at that time, my ex-husband said, do you want to buy me out? Because he's like, I don't want to refinance and extend the loan, whatever. So she did let me know that we could roll it all in together. The problem is that so the the value is somewhere around 400 to 425, and so my share would be around 100. And when I just run the numbers, it looks like I would negative cash flow by a couple $1,000 per year if I took on that additional debt load. Mm-hmm. And so, I just wanted to get your opinion about what you would do in this circumstance. My ex-husband is fine to continue as is, not refinancing.
So what is the current mortgage is 200?
The balance, you mean?
Your current balance today is what?
120.
120. Okay. All right. Ooh. All right, I'm coming up on the clock. Hang on. When we come back from this break, we'll talk this through with you. All right, Abigail, let me go back and make sure I got my numbers right because my head's spinning a little bit here. You got a rental property you own with your ex. It's worth $400. You owe $120. You own 75%. He owns 25%. You're talking about refinancing from an interest rate in the high 4s to an interest rate down in the 2s, which makes a lot of sense. He doesn't want to do that, but while it all came up, he said, hey, just buy me out. Is that what you told me?
That's exactly correct.
And you told me that if you were to refinance and buy him out, that you would be negative cash flowing per year. Okay? Well, that's where I got lost because let's see here. You've got a $280,000 equity, but you should not be buying him out on the $280,000. You should buy him out based on 400 minus about 40 for expenses, and so you've got about a $240,000 equity. Does that sound about right?
I got lost there.
Okay. If you're buying a partner out on a piece of real estate, you don't do it at retail. You do it at what it would be net in a sale. And so if you sell a $400,000 piece of property, you guys are real estate agents, so you might not have the commissions, but the commissions you would have made, if you paid out a commission and you had other miscellaneous expenses and you negotiated a little bit, the $400 would be discounted by about 10% at least. You might net 90% of the gross amount, right?
Okay.
And so that'd be $40,000 off. And you got a $280,000 equity, so there's a $240,000 equity. So his portion is only worth about $60,000.
Okay.
See how I did? I mean, that's fair. That's not ripping him off. That's not ripping you off. Nobody's getting a deal here. But I have the same thing set up in my estate plan. Because I've got a bunch of real estate. If one of the kids wants to buy out one of the other kids on a piece of property, so they don't have to own it together. They do it at an 80% ratio. Because it's not fair to do it at full appraisal. It's not. That's craziness because that's not the way. Because they can't get that. They can't get full appraisal net. So anyway, 60 and 120 is only 180 of a mortgage on 400. I do not understand why that property is not cash flowing.
Okay. Well, in that scenario, that changes things. If I was thinking that I would be adding $100,000 to the balance.
Well, there's no way it's $100,000. This is $280 at the most.
So you're saying this is because you have to it's the equity versus the balance. In other words,
yeah, you're buying out
full value because
it is the equity. Because the only thing, if you guys sell it, you get 75% of the equity. He gets 25% of the equity after expenses. Agreed?
Right. Yep.
And so his 25% is only worth 25% of the equity after expenses. That's what his position's worth. Your position's worth 75% of that. That's the, if you were in a court, for instance, and this was a negative breakup, that's how the judge would make you calculate it, because that's the proper way of doing it. Because if you guys put it on the market and sell it, that's what you're going to net. He's going to net about 60.
Right. Okay.
And so anyway, at $100,000 and $120,000 mortgage today, plus 60 or plus even 80, which is too much. That's only $200,000 mortgage on a $400,000 property. That should cash flow.
Okay.
I don't know unless this property is the rental market in this particular neighborhood sucking.
No. I mean, I'm getting right now. I mean, it definitely cash flows. Right now, I'm getting it's actually 2 houses on one lot, and combined it's $2,450 total rent.
That's not much on a $400,000 value.
Well, actually, you're correct, but we've had very long-term tenants, and so
to the point that you're discounted your rental by. I mean, that thing ought to be making 1% a month anyway. You ought to be making $4,000 on that.
Well, actually, no.
Then maybe you need to sell this property. You may need to sell this property because your cash-on-cash return or your internal rate of return on this, after you're doing NOI and everything, as deeply as you've got this thing discounted, this is not a good property. I wouldn't hold that property.
Yeah, and Abigail, I'm going to tell you, not even based on numbers, based on life, based on simplifying your life and putting you in the driver's seat, is I'm not going to own a property with an X. I'm not. And so, I'm going to either buy out, as Dave was talking about, or I'm going to sell this thing. Just real simple. There's no reason for you to have to continue to go around and around, and I know things are going well right now, but you and I both know it's just going to take a hiccup. It's just going to take something for old stuff to come back. Clean your life out. Yeah. Get this thing, get it gone, and then you can go buy a home the right way.
Well, there's like 3 or 4 different things going on here. There's that, and that's a reason to get rid of it.
Yeah.
We've got to get the calculation, if you're going to do the buyout, down to what it should be and not overpay for the buyout. And so at least a 10% discount on your gross, reducing your equity by $40,000. And then the third problem is discovered late in the phone call, and that is that you guys are not making very good money on this property. If you have $400,000 invested in a piece of property, you need to be grossing $3,500 to $4,000 a month on that. In most markets, and Austin, Texas is not a bad market. And so you ought to be making somewhere in that approaching 1% a month on it in top line in order to have justified tying up that much money into something. So I listen, I got a lot of property. If I have a long-term renter, I don't always get full market, but I'm not running at 60% of market ever.
Well, I think the thing she was trying to wrap her head around is, Dave, you just gave her a PhD in real estate, and she's a realtor. And me too, just looking at this and talking about how to discount it before you sell it. And so, that's not something everybody knows, being aware of, because you're right. You are going to have fees. You are going to have expenses. So you can't just do a straight 25% or whatever it is in someone else's position.
No, I mean, that would be the deal of the year for him.
It would be a great deal.